Welcome to Enjoy the Journey podcast, where we interview expert entrepreneurs and thought leaders to help guide you in pursuit of financial freedom. Presented to you by Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, where we help service-based business owners remove cash flow bottlenecks, maximize their profits, and turn business profits into personal wealth. G'day guys, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and we're here for another episode of the Enjoy the Journey podcast. And I've got Robert Riopel here with me today, who's here to share some of his wisdom around his incredible journey to date that ultimately is going to help you grow and scale both in life and in your business. So really looking forward to doing a bit of a deep dive and sharing some of his wisdom with you. So Robert, thanks for joining us today, mate. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great and I'm jealous. I'm jealous that you're on a trek right now because I love camping. I love being out in nature. And so seeing you in the setup you're in, oh, dude, I'm loving it.
I'm glad we've got that in common, mate. So Robert, tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Yeah, growing up, I was taught by my parents I could achieve anything I want. And if I work hard and I stay loyal to a company, that's the kind of work you want to do. Whether you enjoy it or not, you still work hard, you stay loyal. And that's what I did. But the thing is I'm watching my parents saying I could do anything I want, but I'm watching them having to move town to town, city to city, just to keep working to feed the family. And that's where the second part of the programming came in, is you work hard, you stay loyal. And so I entered the workforce at a young age doing that. And by the time I was 21, I was laid off from 3 different companies that I thought were going to be long-term. And I look back now, Jackson, I go, thank goodness I learned a lesson back then that if I wanted to have any kind of success in my life, I had to take control of that success myself. Fast forward, where I lived, there was no work at the time. I started delivering pizzas for Domino's Pizza out of necessity. And from necessity, my franchisee sold his store and I knew I might get laid off. So he had bought 2 more stores. So I said, do you need a manager? You have 2 stores now. And even if I didn't want to do it, I wanted to secure myself. And then all of a sudden, a year and a half after he bought the 2 stores, he decided to get out of Domino's Pizza and sell his 2 stores. So out of necessity, knowing as a manager, my wife was my assistant, we knew we were probably the first ones let go. So we said, we want to buy the stores, but we didn't have any money to do it. But one of the things that I have that has served me well, and just from our quick connection, I can tell you have this as one of your favorite words, passion. Passion is my favorite word in the whole world. If there's something I really want to accomplish, I'm going to find a way to do it. We ended up buying both of his stores with no money of our own. We became franchisees. We thought we had it made. It was like, oh, we started making pretty good money, but we didn't realize why we spent money the way we did. And by the time we were franchisees for 8 years, we actually were now over $150,000 in debt and going down very quickly. And that's when we were introduced to personal development, working on ourselves. And from a 3-day weekend, we ended up going from deep in debt to actually completely retiring financially free 9 months later at the age of 32. And that's what triggered my passion to teach others, is I realized if I could even help one person do what my wife and I had been able to accomplish, it would make it all worthwhile. And now today I've been blessed for the last 19 plus years to travel all over the world, personally taught over 500,000 students in about 30 different countries on how to create financial freedom, how to live a life of purpose and passion. And I'm living my passion. So that's kind of the short, long version of who I am, Jackson.
I love that, mate. Robert, we've got a lot more in common than you know, because very similar. My parents were hardworking individuals, always said work really hard. If you want to be successful, you need to work hard for it. And they worked 16-hour days for as long as I could remember, and struggled every step of the way of trying to create any sort of financial freedom. And what I quickly realized is that they were working for money as opposed to money working for them. And I think many of us get caught up in these golden handcuffs where we chase security and we chase certainty. But is there really such a thing? Unless we create that certainty and security for ourselves, which sounds like what you've been able to do. So, Robert, let's talk about the various components of how you've created this amount of freedom. You've got a system that's essentially the 4 currencies of life. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, the first currency of life is what people would expect, it's money. And what people don't realize is that currency of money comes in 2 things. Something that's called affluenza, which means too much money. And when you have too much money, you do crazy things. Like the prince who bought an A380 jet for $1 billion plus, spent $100 million renovating it into his party plane just so he could have a party plane. Okay, that's affluenza. Too little money is called poverty, which then, to me, because I've gone through it, poverty and no money is the worst stress I've ever been through, financial stress. So that's the first currency. The second currency is something that everybody has the exact same amount of, which is time. Too much time on your hands, too little time on your hand is stress. And so many people, though, they're busy and they think, I don't have time. What they don't realize is that they're actually busy, not productive. And if they were actually to focus some of that busyness onto productivity, they'd end up freeing up a lot more time. So that's why they're stressed out. That's the second currency. And the third currency is something that a lot of people chase, fame. They're 15 minutes of fame. They want to be famous. Fame does crazy things to people, if you've ever noticed. Take a look at the celebrities. Look at singers, actors, child stars. And I love something that in an interview, someone was interviewing Jennifer Lopez, and they asked her, they said, Jennifer, you are amazing. You're a singer, you're an actress, you're a dancer, you're like the triple threat. How do you handle the fame? And her answer really made me introspect to me of my life of being on the stage and off the stage. She said, when I'm on the stage, when I'm performing, I'm J-Lo. That's me. When I'm at home with friends and family, I'm Jennifer Lopez. And I went, wow. Because when I'm on stage, I'm Robert Raymond Riopel. But when I'm home, I'm Robert. And one of the ways my wife helps me remember, I can come back from doing 3 events overseas where I've been in front of thousands of students, and my wife will look at me and it's our little joke and she'll go, honey, you're home. There's no more assistance here. Go take out the garbage. If I let my ego run rampant, then I'm not doing anybody any service, right? So that's the third currency. And then the fourth one is the one I love to really focus my life on now, is the currency of experience. Like right now, again, I'm watching you and you're not just thinking of traveling. You're not just planning traveling. You're out, even though you have a business going, you're out in the woods, 4x4ing, taking a year, experiencing life. How many people don't? You see, I'm at that stage now because like you, taught to work hard. And I want people to understand success takes hard work, but most people are working harder being broke than they are to be successful. And so you have to enjoy life along that journey. So for me, that's where the experience comes in. Everything I do, everything I design, I ask myself, what's the experience of this going to be? Because I want that currency in my life to be full. I want my currency meter, my currency bank account just absolutely plumb full. And, my wife and I lived in our RV for 4.5 years at one point because that's what we love to do. So those are the 4 currencies. And when you learn how to kind of balance those, like the actionable steps you and I were talking about, learn to get money working for you. Learn what passive income is. People will know, Jackson, when they're at the kind of the level for them. See, for me, I've done very well, but I don't need to chase tens and hundreds of millions. If I have enough money, I don't have to work and I have the lifestyle I like, that's my level in the money currency. Too much, I get stressed. Too little, I get stressed. So you can find balance in each of those.
I love this, mate. This is music to my ears. And I think that so many people who aren't educated around these things, Robert, they chase the wrong currencies because they feel like that's what they should be doing. They're chasing all of this wealth, huge amounts of wealth that they don't even know what they would do with if they even had it. And they're chasing fame. And if they ever do stumble upon fame, they often look back and regret it. And then ultimately, and I know through my own firsthand experience, and I think we typically fall into this when we're younger and a little bit more ego driven, is that we're chasing the wrong measures of success. And then when we really realize what makes us happy, it's about having freedom of our time and having that value of experience, the quality of experience, which is the reason why I'm doing this trip. And it's the reason why it sounds like you've done all of this yourself. So as somebody who's, say, an entrepreneur, that you've got a successful business and you're trying to balance these currencies, how do you really get clear on what are the currencies that are going to add the most value to you?
We live in the mental, the emotional, spiritual, and the physical realms. So it's not one's more important than the other. They're all just as important. And so it's being aware. It's actually being willing to take that hard look at yourself, surrounding yourself with people who aren't, well, and I'll ask like this, Jack, have you ever heard the saying, surround yourself with like-minded people? One of my mentors actually did a complete reframe for me. Because I'm always on stage saying, look, you're in a room of 1,000 like-minded people. How amazing is that? But then my mentor, he said to me, he said, look, he said, if there's you and 4 other people and you want to go to the mall, you're at the bus station waiting to go to the mall. You're all of like mind. You're waiting for the bus. And that bus is just going to take you to the mall. That's not going to help you be successful. He says, you want to surround yourself with growth-minded people because the growth-minded people are the ones that are going to be willing to have the hard conversation with you when it's needed. Like, yes. Jackson, what the hell are you doing? Step up, mate. You're playing small, or why are you being so tough on yourself? You need to take better care of yourself. See, growth-minded people around you, are a big key, because when you're in it, you don't see that you're in it.
Yeah.
When you're out of balance, you may feel it, but you don't necessarily know why you're out of balance. But having those other people around you, they can say, hey, look, you're going for the fame too much, mate. And I see you're kind of sabotaging. Now, when you surround yourself with these growth-minded people, it's important to have an agreement that you don't take it personally if you get on each other's case. It'd be easy for the ego to kick back in and going, what do you know? This is my life. Leave me alone. So it's all about setting a context with each other prior to, and they become your best friends.
I love that, mate. And look, I think this is the tough part of being an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is rare. And particularly when people become entrepreneurs, they typically come from being surrounded by people who play it safe. Maybe it's family members, maybe it's friends. And it's those people who are like, hey, Robert, hey, maybe you're taking too much risk. Hey, they can't conceptualize what it is that you're doing. They just say, hey, take it easy. Like you're going to go broke. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to be homeless and destitute. And these may be like-minded from a value standpoint, but they're definitely not growth-minded. So I think that's a really great piece of advice, mate. That's a game changer.
Something, sorry to cut in there, but something that I want people to understand is these people aren't necessarily doing this to sabotage your success or to be mean or spiteful. Most of the time it's out of love, out of protection. They don't want to see you get hurt. Yeah. So they're trying to protect you. And that's why it takes courage sometimes. It takes courage to sit there and say, well, this is my journey, good, bad, or otherwise, it's my journey. I'm willing to go on it. Thank you for your care. Thank you for your love. But I've decided this is what I'm going to do. And sometimes it definitely takes courage. When my wife and I announced that we're going to be Domino's Pizza franchisees, our families freaked out. Just like you were saying, what if it doesn't work? What are you going to do? And after a couple of years, all of a sudden they're like loving that we're franchisees. So now imagine at the 8-year mark, we're deep in debt. We're not enjoying Domino's anymore. And we announce we're getting out of Domino's Pizza. Those same people that said, don't get into it. What are you doing? They're like, no, you can't leave. What are you going to do? This is your life. It's interesting how that works out.
I resonate with that a lot, mate. I was a franchisee myself in a franchise here in Australia, and a very similar story. People like to say, be careful. These things go wrong and people lose a lot of money. And then getting out, they're like, what are you doing? You're crazy. You've got the #1 branch in the country. Why are you selling? And people just don't get it. So, Robert, you talk about the 4 phases of life. Do you want to walk us through these phases and for people to kind of identify where they're at and what they should be considering based on the phase that they're in?
Absolutely. And I want people to understand these are 4 phases you're going to go through, whether you like it or not. And I love using acronyms. So for this one, I use the acronym OPEN. And I love to give where credit is due. See, this was not my research. I have a really good friend who I nicknamed him my quantum monk. And Jackson, I think you would love this guy. He was actually a monk for 8 years, over 15,000 hours of meditation. And he also studies quantum physics. So he can tell you all about spirituality and then tell you the science behind it. The guy is amazing. And he called it his chaos module. And he studied it, he put it together. It blew me away, but it wasn't his passion. So I said, Greg, let me teach this. I've got to get this to the world. And he's like, absolutely, it's yours. So I spent hours interviewing him, making sure I was getting it right, understanding it. And the more I did, the more it just blew me away and the more we were able to prove it. And so I turned it into an acronym of OPEN, because what happens is most people, things can be going great in their life, and all of a sudden it seems like they get hit by a brick wall. Has that ever happened to you, Jackson? Wouldn't it be great to be able to, in that moment, say, open sesame and open that wall up and keep your journey going forward? So the first phase, and the O, it stands for the observation phase. So you've heard the saying, we're a human being, not a human doing. Well, in the observation phase, you're actually a human creating. This is the time when you're in this phase, you dream big. Like I talk about in my book, Success Left a Clue. First step, dream big. This is the time you use vision boards, you create them. This is the time you meditate, you go inward. What is it that's really important to me? And you don't have to worry about the why or how or any of that. It's just you observe, you dream. So picture it like you meet a girl and you want to know this girl. So now you're interested in everything. What is she like? What doesn't she like? Where does she go? How old is she? What's her name? So you're in that observation phase. You're aware of everything and you want to know great things. Okay? So that's the observation phase. The P stands for pamper phase. And now, especially entrepreneurs, this is the one that most of them don't do. And this is why they self-sabotage. So I want your entrepreneurs to listen very, very closely. See, the pamper phase, this is where you become the human being. This is where you take care of you. So when you enter a pamper phase, this is the time to go on a vacation. This is the time, if you can't get on a vacation, you plan a trip. Maybe you go to the salon and get your hair or your nails done. You go for a massage. Maybe you take 20 minutes and read a book, something that nurtures you, something that refreshes you. See, most entrepreneurs, they get caught up going so hard, and because they forget to take care of themselves, they end up burning out. All of a sudden, they're working harder but not being as productive, and they just start spinning their wheels. So the pamper phase is so critical that when you do that, when you enter it, you take time for you. People would ask me all the time, they'd say, Robert, you're flying on average 200,000 miles a year, pre-COVID, of course. Why do you like to travel overseas? And I'm like, well, one of the secrets is when I hop on that jet and I've got a 10, 12, 14, 16-hour flight, that's my time. I'm up in my pod, usually in business class. They have nice little pods. I don't connect to Wi-Fi. I watch movies. I read. I enjoy great food, and I enjoy great wine. That's my time to rejuvenate. That's my pamper phase. And entrepreneurs, I'm going to say it again, you have to take care of you or else you'll sabotage. The E stands for energy phase. And this is when you become that human doing. This is the time to make appointments, schedule, do documents. This is the time where when you need to, and the pamper phase is so important because in the energy phase, you may pull 18-hour days. With all the time zones I deal with, there's some days where I go 6 a.m. to 1 or 2 a.m. And I schedule the day so that on those days I'm full. It's an energy day. And one of my rituals is like when I'm traveling, when I get home after say 2 weeks, 3 weeks overseas, I take a full day off. My wife and I, our agreement is if I don't want to do anything, that's my pamper, because when I'm in energy, I'm in energy. My normal trainings are 3 to 5 days long, where I'm on stage for up to 12 or more hours per day. So I know what energy is. So energy phase is where you just get stuff done. And then there's the N. Now the N is not the first letter of the word, but I needed an N for open. So work with me on this. N stands for unclutter, the unclutter phase. And another way of calling this is the chaos phase, because what people don't realize, chaos is natural. Most people resist chaos. Most people get pissed off, they get frustrated. But if you learn to embrace chaos, I've only known you for the short time of this interview, Jackson, but I'm going to guarantee that you'll get this, is that we are meant to evolve. That's what human beings are meant to do. And so what chaos is nature's way of saying, you're stuck. Let's get you unstuck so you evolve to the next level. And the reason I call it unclutter is because this is the time you courageously destroy something. Now, here's what I mean by that. There are some business or personal relationships that are just not meant to be, but people hang on to them. So it's time to let one of those go, destroy that relationship. And I don't mean destroy like, oh, you're an asshole, you're out of here. It's like you wrap it up, you close it, right? This is a time that maybe you've been seeing that new vehicle that you've wanted for a while, and you're wondering, why can't I get it? Well, it's because you're still stuck hanging on to and attached to the vehicle you have. So you have to let go of that vehicle to get the new vehicle. So for people, sometimes the biggest thing they have to destroy is a mindset or belief that has not been serving them, that's been holding them back. But they are so attached to that belief. No, this is the way it is. Well, if that's the way it is, why are you struggling so much? Are you open to learning something new? I would love people to understand is because here's a very practical tip. You can volunteer to flow through chaos a lot easier by courageously volunteering to destroy something in your life. So as an example, you go to the fridge and you go, you know what? It's time to clean out this fridge. There's food sitting back there that has been there a little too long. So you're courageously uncluttering. You're actually uncluttering. I come into my office and every couple of weeks, I will go through and I'll reorganize my office and unclutter it. So that way you're showing the universe that, you know what? I'm willing to unclutter as I go along so it doesn't hit you as hard, where it becomes something that maybe takes you out for days, weeks, or months. And what it comes down to is, in a nutshell, is this. Instead of being willing to live life, you've got to be willing to courageously allow life to live you. And I'm going to bring it to your journey. If you were going along yesterday, those 500 kilometers you were traveling, and you blew a tire, would you have got upset and all pissed, or would you say, let's get it fixed and move on?
Probably would get pissed
right?
in the beginning, but I would have fixed it.
Having emotions and upset is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
It's just, do you hang on to them too long? And so this is where, if you embrace chaos, the reason I again use the acronym OPEN is because as you evolve, all of a sudden you go right back into the observation phase.
I love this. This is great.
And so they keep going around.
Beautiful. This reminds me of a saying that my father taught me that his father taught him. And basically, my grandfather said, in life, we walk through life with a backpack. And as we go through the life, we're picking things up and we're putting them in the backpack. But there comes a point in time where that backpack gets full. And sometimes we've got to pull over to the side of the road, we've got to empty it out, and then we've got to make space to then move on. And I feel that this happens so much that we all hold on to things that we feel are non negotiables, that are fundamentally and intrinsically important to our being. And it's when we can let those things go, we create space for growth and opportunity. And I know every single time I've done
Yeah.
this, that magic has happened.
I'm never going to say it's going to be easy. I'm never going to say that it is something that you should just be able to never be upset. We all have ups and downs. That's the universe. Everything travels in those frequencies of ups and downs. You can either choose to resist it and struggle, or you can say, I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to enjoy the journey. So let's go back, tie that back to experience. What is my experience I'm going through right now? Okay, I'm really pissed off that I got a flat tire. Great. Now let's go to the movie Frozen. Let it go, let it go. That's the only part of the song that I know.
I love it, mate. That's fantastic. So, Robert, who's an ideal client for you? Who are you looking to connect with? Because obviously, there's going to be people who've listened to this podcast. They've really resonated with what you've had to say. So, who are you looking to connect with?
For me, my passion is to take people who have a message that want to get it out to the world. And I've been blessed to train thousands and thousands of trainers around the world. And I love to take people and help them become more authentic, more connected. And because most people get stuck up in their head. One of the things with the total switch around it because of COVID, I went from traveling all over the world to not traveling at all. And in the beginning, I got upset. That's natural. But then I used the two most powerful words that I've come to find in guiding my life. And those two words are, what's next? And as soon as I asked that, my wife and I were having a discussion. She said, look, we bought this beautiful property we have to be able to build our training center on it. I know we're planning on doing it a few years down the road. Well, you're not going anywhere right now. Why don't we do it now? And so we broke ground in December, and we're about 2 weeks away from our brand new training facility off the back of my house. And so it's going to be people that want to really, I'm going to hold experiential masterminds here. I do mentoring where I take on a student for a year at a time, and I teach them how to become that trainer, that authentic, present trainer, whether it's now virtually or in front of a live audience. Those are the people I really love to dive into and get with. But because of my Domino's Pizza experience, I also love working with entrepreneurs that are so used to working in their business, they forget to do, as Michael Gerber says, step out and work on their business. So helping them understand how to work on it. So, and you being from a franchise, the E-Myth, people think they're entrepreneurs, but they're not. They had that specialty and they thought, I don't want a boss. I'll do this in my own business. But they forget that they also have to know how to run the business. And so they get caught up being the clog in the wheels, in the mechanism, and they frustrate and struggle. So I like to help entrepreneurs get unstuck and learn how to work on their business so they can move forward. So those are the kind of people I love to work with.
Beautiful. I love that. And if anybody's listened to this podcast, Robert, and they're interested in getting in touch with you, what's the best way for them to connect?
My Facebook fan page is one of the greatest ways. And so I also have successlefaclue.com for my website, which is based on my book. And, as a gift to your audience, I'd actually love to give them my ebook as a gift.
That'd be fantastic. We'll include a link to that in the show notes. That's really generous, Robert. I really appreciate that. Now, if we had to summarize our conversation today in a couple of key action items and takeaways that people can go and implement, what would be your top 3 tips for people to take away from this conversation?
1, keep growing yourself because, we're always changing. The world's changing. So you've got to keep learning and growing and moving forward. 2, surround yourself with those growth-minded people that are there to hold you to a higher, how do I say it? My wife, I will tell you right now, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for her because she's not willing to let me play small. And sometimes that means she has to kick me in the ass to step up. And that's one of the greatest things I respect about her because that's a gift she gives me and it's a gift I give her. So surround yourself with people who are willing to have the tough conversations. And 3, take one more step and just keep moving in the direction you want to go in.
Beautiful, mate. This has been a great conversation, hugely valuable, and I'm really excited to share this with our audience. So I really appreciate you making the time. And guys, if you've listened to this podcast and you want to get in touch with Robert, please make sure that you reach out to him. Details are in the show notes. Robert, thanks again, mate, and looking forward to chatting again soon.